Hey, hockey fans, T-Boss is 13-3 here with top shelf guests, Hockey Wives, Jed Zanin and Carolyn Emberson. This episode is sponsored by Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Hertel Law, Ryan Flagg at State Farm Insurance, Dooley's Pub, Williams Diamond Center, and Eau Claire Ford. Mogi.
Well, ladies, we have to thank you so much for taking time out of your beautiful summer day here at Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub to sit down and share all your secrets that you know about your guys here, and should be really interesting. We've had both husbands on the podcast, but this is the first time we've ever done a wife thing. So we did some hockey moms one time, but that was really fun. So this will be interesting. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Were either of you athletes yourselves?
Yes. Growing up, I was a three-sport athlete. I played volleyball, basketball, and I ran track and field in high school. I went to college to play volleyball, and that's where Greg and I met.
All right.
Wow.
Where'd you play volleyball?
UNO, Nebraska,
Okay,
Omaha.
yeah, cool. Okay, very nice. I played soccer growing up, and my sister and I both played in college. She played at a school in Virginia, and then I played soccer at Wisconsin, which is where I met Ty.
All right. Both of you met your husbands through athletics, kind of being okay. Super.
So who's the better athlete in the family?
That's debatable.
Carolyn?
Probably Ty.
Jen, debatable because...
I mean, Greg's very one sport minded, where I've got a little bit, broader range to offer to the conversation. He's much better at his one sport than I ever was at any of mine, but I've got more experience in other things, right? Sure. I mean, Greg was quite the baseball player too, so I probably shouldn't toot my own horn too much, but I don't know. It's a toss-up. Okay. We'll leave it at that.
I know that wasn't one of the questions, but it's like, wow, these gals are some studs. I mean, high level college athletes, so that's a big deal.
You know, for our audience, we should mention that the husbands we're talking about are Greg Zanin and Ty Emberson, in their own right, great defensemen. And as we know, Mogi, that's the most important position on the ice.
I'm not a defenseman. You can probably tell that. and JC is. So, yeah, anytime he can rub that in my nose a little bit, he likes to do that, which is fine.
Yes.
I get my jabs in once in a while.
There you go. What was life like for Carolyn before you met Ty? What was life like before hockey?
I was just kind of doing my own thing. I mean, playing soccer in college, so you had all your own friends. You were at school. You ended up there by yourself. Like, we didn't date in high school like I know a lot of other couples did. So I was just kind of doing my own thing, playing soccer in nursing school. And, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Very much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did either one of you play hockey?
No, so hockey I'm from Minnesota. I was born and raised in Hastings. And hockey became a high school sport, I want to say around 96 for girls, 96-ish. And by that time, I was already heading into my junior year of high school, and I'd played basketball every winter my entire life up till that point. I did grow up watching my brother play hockey, and I had always wanted to, but it wasn't so much an option for me in the younger years. And by the time that it became a high school sport in Minnesota, my parents were like, no. We're sticking with basketball. Gonna save us some bucks there.
I'll bet your basketball coach was pretty happy about that too, though, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you two face being an NHL wife? Jen?
Oh gosh, it's been a while for me. I mean, we're just talking about it. We're about almost 10 years out of the game already. Greg's last year was 2014-15. So it's been a hot minute since I would have considered myself an NHL wife. But along the way, there's things along the way that, moving, and then you bring kids into the equation, and that changes things a little bit. You'll get there one day. Yeah. Now you're thinking about when you're moving, it's not just moving to go be by the team or to a cool area of town. Now you're thinking about where my kid's going to go to daycare, what school are they going to go to, is it going to be a good fit for them? And those kinds of things start to make you just think differently as you're doing the already difficult packing up and moving and relocating and new team, new family, new friends. And it's all part of it. It goes by quickly, so you got to embrace it while you can.
You know, Carolyn, you are a newlywed. Not only that, you and your husband purchased a home in Minnesota, and now you've got to get out to California. What's that like? I mean, do you guys have a residence out there? You know, we were talking a little bit about the fact that you got to drive, get your vehicles, things like that.
So honestly, buying the house in Minnesota makes things a lot easier for us. Like, we bought one in Connecticut, and we were only there for 3 months, and then, more than 3, but maybe 4 or 5. And then Ty got picked up off waivers, and we moved to California. So now we just rent that house out. But I think that was really nice because we didn't know how long we'd be in Connecticut. So we thought we'd be there for longer. And I'd rather buy one and have it than rent for 4 years and wish we would have. So we did that. And then when we were in California, we rented, but we sent all of our stuff back home to Ty's parents' house, because when you get picked up off waivers, you don't know if you're going to stay or just turn around and move again. So we wanted to do it. I am really interested in real estate. My mom does a lot of real estate. So every house we've bought has been a duplex, because it's just, we won't live in it long term, but it's just good. I like building that portfolio, and it's kind of with Ty's job. Sometimes it limits what you can do job-wise. I was working as a nurse, and that's just been challenging with how much we move. So then that allows me to do some other things. So it has made it a lot easier of then we can do something that I'm interested in, invest in real estate. But now we have a place that's furnished, we renovated it, and we'll rent it out. And it's furnished when we leave. So everything will be paid for when we leave, hopefully, if we find renters. And then we get to come back to it, and it's all set up already. So that actually makes it a lot easier now that we bought a house.
Yeah, smart move. Yeah.
A lot of future planning with you guys.
Yeah.
So, gotta ask, when they come in from the road, they've been gone for X amount of days because they're doing their West Coast tour, their East Coast tour, do they ever whine about something? You know, oh, look at that. Carolyn's got a big smile.
Actually, not really. Ty's actually really good. I think it's mostly just the sleep. He really likes his sleep, and he's very picky about his sleep. Like, he has to have his body pillow, his fan going. It has to be really cold. He has to have his cooling blanket. But I think he's more just excited to get back to, like, his room where he has everything situated. But he really doesn't complain a lot.
Okay, he's a little teddy bear is what you're trying to tell me.
He is. I listen to a lot of other girls and what their boyfriends or husbands have to say. And I'm like, well, Ty's pretty easy, so that's about it.
Low maintenance for Ty. That's
just high
good.
maintenance sleeping wise.
Okay, yeah. How about Greg?
I would say I was probably more of the whiner when Greg came back, because it was almost like living 2 different lives when Greg was home and when Greg was gone. You do things differently. Like when Greg's on the road and I was home and I had 3 kids, and all of a sudden the house is in complete shambles. There's couch cushions all over the floor because we're playing the floor is lava. The dishes are stacking up in the sink. I haven't done any dishes, but we're having a great time and, you know, making the most of the time that we had together. But then Greg comes home, and now all of a sudden all of this, I don't want to say freedom, because it wasn't freedom, but all of these things that I let go while he was on the road, I suddenly have to start like staying on top of again. And there was always, he would come home from the road, especially after a long trip again, and all he wanted to do was be at home. Where I was always, I've been at home for the last 2 weeks. I've made dinner every night for the last 2 weeks. I want to go out. And the last thing he wanted to do was go out. So I was probably more the whiner in that scenario.
I think that's funny for you guys, because mine's literally the opposite of Ty comes home And he's like, Car, let's go do this. And I'm like, I have things to do today. Like, it's 12 o'clock. I know it's your off day, but I have things. I have emails I'd like to get done. Like, I have to stick to my schedule. We can do something after. That's funny.
Oh, that is funny.
So do they ever share any stories from the road or any good chirps that they hear from guys? Hockey players are notorious for their chirping.
I know Greg was a chirper, but he didn't really bring any of that home. I will say now, though, he's coaching high school hockey here at Stillwater, and he's in the locker room with his players and our son, who's now 13. Every now and then I'll pop into the locker room, and he's picking up on the chirps that these high schoolers are throwing around, and he's going out there thinking that he should be chirping the same way that they do. And I mean, he's just turned 13, so last season he was a 12-year-old, and I don't know if some of those chirps were always the most appropriate from a 12-year-old.
I can imagine they weren't.
Carolyn, anything that Ty shares with you?
Not really. I ask him a lot of times, like if he sees people or he's playing against people that he's played with before and he knows. I'm like, oh, did he say anything funny to you? And normally Ty just said, no, he just said hi, what's up? That's about it. But it literally everything you're saying reminds me of something for me of, we're really good friends with the Carpenter family. Ryan Carpenter played in San Jose last year, and then before that we were both in Connecticut, and their two boys play hockey, but they're still pretty young, like 3 and 5, I think, but they pick up on all of the like words and the language and just the hockey culture.
Yes.
Because they watch their dad, they're always in the locker room, they're always there at games, so it's funny to hear 3 and 5-year-olds repeat things that their dad says. It's not like bad words or anything, but just like funny little hockey things.
Yep. They bring the boys, their kids in the locker room after games, and they're not filtering anything in the locker room just because there's kids in there.
Right.
So yeah, these kids grow up in this environment that's not your typical environment.
Workplace environment.
But it's so cute and funny to listen to them talk. They pick up on everything.
Well, JC, you brought Michael into the locker room one time. What did you make sure you told him?
Oh, my son came into the locker room. He was so excited when he got to the age where I finally let him in, and I said, here's the scoop. What's said in the locker room stays in the locker room. And if I ever hear you repeat it outside the locker room, you can never come back in. And he's 36 now, and he still remembers that with the conversation. So, yeah, that's the way that worked out. So did you go to many games, Jen? Did you watch many games?
I went to just about every home game, but never once traveled.
So when you were at those games, were you a vocal fan?
No, I am and even to this day, I do not. I sit in my chair. I keep my mouth shut.
Carolyn?
No, I'm the same way. I go to almost all the home games. Sometimes it's nice just to get out of the house and see people.
Yep.
And sometimes I would just really want, like most of the time if you're going to a game and you're sitting by other girls chatting, talking. Yeah. So sometimes if I really just want to sit there and watch, I'll go sit by myself.
Yep, same.
Okay.
So do the teams set you up in a special spot? Is there a wives section that you sit together in, or a suite or something?
Yeah, there's usually a wives or a family section, a couple rows randomly in a rink somewhere. Where you're sitting with each other. There's actually been times too where I went to games, and there's usually a family room downstairs.
Nice.
And there's times where I would go to a game and not even go up and watch the game. I would just hang out in the family room, because there's been places too where they've had daycare. So I'd go hang out on the couch and watch the game in like the family room, and
they have the kids
and
room.
Drop the kids over in the daycare room and just spend some time quietly alone watching the game. Yeah, there's usually family areas throughout the rink, and they do a really good job, I think, of everywhere that we were at least did a good job of taking care of the families.
And I think people kind of go to each game for different reasons of, like, sometimes you're in the mood and you want to see people because they've been on the road for a long time, or sometimes you literally just want to go and sit there and watch, or sometimes you want to go see some people's kids and play with them, or watch them play hockey in the hallway, or there's just different. It's fun.
Yep.
not every hockey game, the majority of hockey games are extremely physical. And sometimes a player has to stick up for another player and the gloves are dropped. And you're watching your husband in a knuckle throwing contest. What's going through your mind, Jen, when Greg dropped the gloves?
Well, I will say that Greg only dropped the gloves once that I can clearly recall, and it was a preseason game. It wasn't even a regular season game. It was a preseason game. And I want to say it was either I think he was with Ottawa at the time, and I believe Radek Bonk was his teammate. Somehow Radek Bonk was involved in this. Somebody hit Radek or something. I can't recall exactly what happened, but Greg got involved, and I think it was in defense of whatever had just happened with Bonky, and the fight didn't go so well for Greg. And he didn't really go that route again after that.
Okay. Understandable.
I think Ty's only been in one fight. Two? What was the second one? First one was Tucson.
In Connecticut when we were up in Syracuse. So you were there.
Oh, I wasn't there for either one. In Tucson, I wasn't there for that. So normally I just see clips, like if my friends are at the games, they'll send it to me, and I just think it's funny. Like I'm glad that that's not his role on the team, because that would be stressful.
That would be tough,
horribly difficult to watch.
But if it happens once in a blue moon and he doesn't get hurt, I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun. Good for you. If that's what you have to do, then go for it. I'm not going to endorse it because it stresses me out, but once in a while it's kind of fun. It's like, oh, okay, sure.
I like it. All right, we're going to give a quick shout out to a few of our sponsors here. For all your family's insurance needs, see Ryan Flagg at State Farm Insurance in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Ryan has been a proud backer of the hockey community for decades and continues to play the game himself. And Hertel Law, the law firm you want on your side, focusing on criminal defense and personal injury. Harry Hertel has been obtaining results for clients in the Chippewa Valley since 1981. When you need legal help, if injured or accused of a crime, call 715-832-4330 for a free in-person consultation. And Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in western Wisconsin since 1954. The orthopedic surgeons and athletic trainers serve many area schools. Their success and reputation as an outstanding orthopedic clinic can be attributed to the teamwork of friendly, knowledgeable physicians and staff. Moog.
Well, ladies, we touched on this a little bit, but how do you balance your own career and personal goals with the demands of a hockey player's schedule? You know, they're in and out, they're back and forth. How do you handle that, your own career, your own type of life?
I kind of put mine on pause while we were living that life. And to this day, I went to school to be a teacher. To this day, I still have not taught full time. But I have been subbing for the last 8 years or so, which I love. It gives me flexibility. It gives me a little bit more freedom than actually being a full-time, and I don't need to do the full-time thing. So it's been great. But I've never actually had that full-time work experience. Because I didn't dive right into it as soon as I graduated college. You know, when I graduated college, Greg was already in Milwaukee. He was in the minors in the Nashville system. And I graduated and met him there and just kind of put everything else on pause.
Wow. Carolyn?
I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge for me is when Ty left college after his junior year, so I still had 1 year to finish nursing school. So he played in Arizona. I had a job lined up to go work in the ER in Arizona, and then he texted me. He was actually at Dev Camp and he got traded. So then I quit that job before I even started it. Had to find a job in Connecticut, worked at that job for like a year, and then Ty got picked up off waivers, so then I gave him like hardly a 2-week notice. It was like, sorry, we're packing up our house and we're moving to California. So, and then we didn't know how long he'd stick in California or if he would. And then we knew after that season was over, we were going to buy a house in Minnesota. And then after that, we'd be leaving Minnesota. So since Connecticut, I have just found that it's too many moving pieces, and you can't really authentically go into a job knowing that your commitment isn't fully there of you're going to have to move, whether it's in a couple months to go home for the off season or at some random point.
Yep.
So that's kind of why I've started diving into the real estate part, because I can do that wherever we are. And I'll start doing other things like that. But I think it's not necessarily like putting things on pause for me. For the nursing side it is, but kind of figuring out new avenues to do what interests me that works with Ty's job.
Did you folks talk about that prior to, getting married? Did you sit down and say, hey, what are we going to do here? Because things can change for you in a heartbeat. You wake up on a Wednesday and Thursday he gets traded to some other team halfway across country. Did you actually talk about that? I imagine you knew that could happen going into it. I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever a conversation that we had. I think it was just something that,
It's kind of understood.
You just know that that's a part of it, and that when we were in Milwaukee, I did do, I worked at an early childhood center our first year there, and then I was pregnant with our daughter our second year there. So we're going back 19 years here. And our third year there was when I was going to go back to work after having our daughter. I tried that for, I don't know, I made about 2 months maybe. And then I was like, well, this isn't really working. Greg's traveling. I'm at work. We have a newborn at home. And yeah, just kind of from there, that was just always my reference was it didn't work. I tried to do it. It didn't work. And that was just the way it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we interviewed each of your husbands, we always ask, is there a ritual or superstition or anything that they do on game day that, because they won the last 2 in a row, I'm going to keep my same underwear on or whatever it is? And both of them said, nah, not really. There's got to be something behind the scenes that these guys weren't telling us.
I don't know that there was any superstitions like that, but there was like a very specific pregame meal. And there was very specific, I'm going to nap from this time to this time. And there was a specific schedule. I don't know if there was any of those, repeat underwears for wins sort of thing. I don't recall any of those.
Okay.
Ty doesn't have things like that, but he for sure has a very structured pregame routine. And my favorite part is that part of his routine is he has to make his own pregame meal, which I think is fabulous.
That's brilliant.
I think that's like the best thing ever, because there's so many girls that are like, I have to go home and make the pregame meal. I'm like, Ty has to do it. It's part of his thing. And I'm like, I love it.
If I never make chicken parm and pasta again, I will be okay.
Yeah. So that is my favorite thing, is that is part of his ritual. I've offered to do it. He said, no, thank you. So I said, oh, great. So he has things like that where it's like he likes to make his own food. He sits there and he watches golf while he eats on his little iPad, and he uses his Normatex. And I know once he gets to the rink, he has some that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Just small little things of the way he tapes a stick or what shin pad he puts on first, but I don't see it. But I know it's there.
Okay. So what did you say his pregame meal was?
Chicken parm and pasta.
How about Ty?
Chicken, sweet potato, and some sort of veggie or pasta. Gluten-free pasta with marinara sauce.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
So the cupboards always have to be stocked with those items or things just go awry.
Oh, yeah. You can't mess that up.
Okay. All right. Do you have any pregame or game day rituals that you went through to make sure that your husband was on the prime, or that you just stayed out of the way, or whatever it was? Did you anything like that?
Not really. The only thing that I think I made sure that the kids were tired to nap while he was napping.
That's fair.
so that they were, on a different schedule than he was. Making sure that the kids are out when he's out so that they're not keeping him up, or that's probably about it.
I think mine is just kind of to go about my own day and stay out of his way, because it's not like we talk during the day, but he's focused and just kind of busy in his own head of what's going on that day and what his schedule is. So when I see him, and I just go about my own day, and I try and get, if there's anything loud I have to do, like vacuuming, or if I'm playing with the dog or doing something, I just make sure it's not during his nap.
Yep.
So
it's all about the nap.
The nap is
Nap's
important.
a big deal.
Yep. But essentially, it's to stay out of his way.
Yes.
And I just go about my day.
Yep.
Okay, so you both are in situations where you have to have, for a lack of better terms, a type A personality, because you're dealing with life as an NHL wife. At home, who's wearing the pants in the family?
I think it was my mom taught me once upon a time that you just got to make him think that it's his idea. So it's hard to know if sometimes it's actually I'm wearing the pants and just kind of filtering the ideas his way, or if he's actually wearing the pants and we're just on the same wavelength.
I would say it depends on what it is, because Ty's smarter than me and he knows which battles to fight, and I just fight every battle. Because I'm just like pretty determined and stuck in, like, if I want something, I'm going to figure it out and do it. But he's smart enough to be like, okay, this battle isn't worth fighting for me. So I think it depends on the day. So, and there's certain aspects where he's more passionate about it, or I just know he has better insight, or vice versa. So I think it really is situational.
Okay, makes sense. So how about contract negotiation wise? Do you as wives get involved with that at all? Do you have a say?
We would talk about it. I don't think that it was ever like up to me to decide. It was more like, this would be a fun place to live, or, I wonder what the weather's like there, or, like it wasn't. I don't think I ever tried to persuade that so much as just explore what options a place might have. I don't know. We didn't really get. That was between him and his agent.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, same with me, more so along the lines of when contract negotiations are going on, I just kind of like to be in the loop of, I always ask, like, oh, what did Planner say today? Mm-hmm. Curious if anything's happening or if you have any updates, or what are the different things being said or possibilities, because then you plan in your mind, like, oh, maybe we're moving here, or maybe you're moving there. So it's more so just I like to be kept in the loop, but I'm never really, it's his career, so I'm not really involved in any of the decisions. And it's kind of, at this point, it's just you go where they want you and you try and stick.
Yeah.
So it's not really up to me. It's just what's best for him. But it's more just the back end of things, of the logistics of, I like to be in the loop for that.
Yes.
So you can do all the behind the scene things and make it happen.
Yeah, because there are a lot of. So what are some of the things that a wife would be expected to do if the husband gets moved during the season?
I would say, like when we were in Connecticut, that was a good example of, he got picked up off waivers and they let us know the deadline for that was, I think they had to let you know by 2 or 3, I can't remember, but they let us. He got a call like 10 minutes after the deadline, so we didn't think that he got picked up. And then they called and they said we were moving literally across the country, and they got him a flight out of Boston the next morning at like 7 a.m. So we had to pack his stuff, and he had to like go get his hockey bag from the rink. And then I drove him the next day. But then it was packing up the whole house and just coordinating, like shipping both of our cars and sending all of our stuff home to Wisconsin, because we didn't know how long we'd be in California. So just those moving pieces, like switching over utilities,
Yep.
all of the little logistics.
Greg was only moved once mid-season. It was a trade deadline deal. out of Minnesota going to Boston, and it was the same scenario. The deadline was 1 o'clock, and I think it was, I don't know, my sister actually texted me, and I want to say it was later. It was almost 2 o'clock when she texted me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it,
Everybody finds
Boston."
out
And I'm
through
like,
Twitter or something.
"Nope, no, I don't know where you heard that, but deadline came and went, and we are still in Minnesota." And about 30 seconds later, Greg called me, and he's like, "Well, going to Boston. I leave tomorrow morning." I'm like, "What?" In this case, it was at the deadline, so it was mid-February-ish, whenever the deadline is. I can't recall off the top of my head. It's been a hot minute. And we stayed here. He went out there. He was only going to be there for, the last little bit of the season and wherever playoffs took him. And kids and I stayed here, and we just flew out to Boston every other weekend. So now, at this time, our youngest was about 10 months old. So he was little. He needed a car seat. He needed a diaper bag. He needed all the things. And then we had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So they were, a lot to have to pack up and fly with every other weekend. But our daughter, our oldest, was in school. She was in kindergarten at the time, or first grade even. I think she was in first grade. And we weren't going to pack up and move her with 3 months left of the school year.
Sure.
So we stayed here, and it worked out fine. I had family, being from Hastings, I had family here, so I had help. And we had established, where we were living while Greg was playing here, a great core of friends outside of hockey. And that's probably two of the reasons that we ended up coming back here when we did, was because we did have family and we did have friends outside of hockey. And they were a huge support system to me during that time when Greg was in Boston and the kids and I had stayed in Minnesota.
Oh, it's nice to have that system in place for you.
How about if we do a little shout out to a couple more sponsors? Dooley's Pub has been Eau Claire's home for hockey and all sports fans since 2005. Dooley's Pub is a proud booster of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and local high schools. Dooley's is located on historic Water Street, providing excellent food and service, and has all of your favorite sports televised at all times. And Williams Diamond Center is a fun and friendly place to find your next sparkling signature piece. Whether you're looking for a custom-designed engagement ring, an anniversary gift, or a self-purchase to celebrate yourself, Williams has price points for every story and budget. Buyers and sellers of estate jewelry, coins, and more. And Eau Claire Ford Lincoln Quick Lane, with a large selection of new and used vehicles available. We buy nice used vehicles any day of the week except Sundays. Eau Claire Ford is here for all your parts and service needs for your vehicle. Ask us about our pickup and delivery options, as well as Saturday service appointments. Visit us today, in-store or online at www.eauclaireford.com. Eau Claire Ford Lincoln Quick Lane is a proud sponsor of the Breakout Sessions podcast.
Carolyn, you said earlier that you kind of dig your heels in once in a while and you pretty much fight all battles, which is kind of cool. You both married to big, strong individuals physically. But when you guys bark, do they actually sit back and listen? You're nodding your head yes.
I think so. I think two good examples are when we were in Connecticut. I really wanted to buy a duplex, just start doing real estate and investing. And I started looking at houses, and there was a house that I really wanted to buy. It was in a great area, cute little town called Glastonbury. And Ty and I went to go see it. And he's like, "I really don't like this house." And I was like, "But look at the numbers. It's really good." And I called him the next day when he was on the road trip, and I was like, "We're going to buy it. We're going to put in an offer." And he was like, "Oh, whatever you say." So we bought that house. And then actually when we were in California, I was like, "Ty, it's about time. Let's buy another duplex in Minnesota. Here's why it would be good for us and make a lot of sense and help us with not having to move as much, and we can just rent something that's furnished during the season and then come back to our house that's already furnished." And I found a house that is in South Minneapolis in the best neighborhood, but the ugliest house. And so it needed a lot of work, and Ty was like, I don't know about that. And I said, well, Ty, I think we should buy it. And so we bought it, and we had never seen it. And still, when we did the inspection, I flew out and we saw the house, or I saw the house. And then the first time Ty saw it was when we moved our stuff in. And he trusted me throughout all that, and now he loves the house. It's fully renovated. And I would say the last one was, I was like, Ty, I really want a dog. We move a lot. I want a friend. I want something that will be there when you're not there, and I'm living alone for a lot of it, or just wherever we go, you're always starting over. And I was like, I think it would be nice if I had a friend. I'm not working as a nurse right now where I have to work 12-hour shifts, and I was volunteering through the Sharks at a dog shelter, and there's a dog that I just absolutely loved. So we adopted Bruce. And Ty wasn't necessarily ready for a dog yet because of our schedules, but I said, don't worry, it's fine. So those are a couple battles that I won.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's ever really a winner when Greg and I go at it. It's usually we both just quit. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, that was ridiculous. And I don't even know how it started or what the outcome was supposed to be. All I know is that you didn't win and I didn't win, and here we are back at square one. I don't know that he definitely doesn't cave. That's for sure. But neither do I.
Some good battles, sounds like.
Sounds like both husbands married some pretty strong-willed women.
Yes, it certainly does.
But I would say that's the cool thing about Ty is he acknowledges and realizes that if you choose to be where they are, you are giving up a lot of what you could be doing yourself. So with the houses and whatnot, it has turned out really well, and he has liked both the houses. But it's him, like, I just have to show him the logistics behind it, because it's more of, he gets stressed out about the logistics of, buying the house and whatnot. But he's really good at being like, okay, this is something that you want to do. I want you to go and do something that you're interested in. So sometimes we have to battle through the details of something. But he's really good at being like, well, you do a lot for my career, so I want you to do something that you're interested in. So that's nice.
Let's switch gears to the media. Is there an unwritten rule or just a policy that Hockey Wives are not allowed to talk to the media, or are you guys allowed to go if you want to and vent your frustrations?
I think that's probably a bigger deal now than it was back in our day, because back in our day, social media was like just becoming a thing, right? We didn't have the outlets to go publicly air our grievances like there are now. And the media was newspaper and television, and that was it. And they weren't coming to us looking for us. Now the media is anybody and everybody who has a phone and asks a question, So I think it's different now. I don't know if there's regulations on that now. There wasn't anything, as far as I'm aware of, back in our day.
No one has asked me, or no one really cares about what I have to say. You know what I mean? Like, you're a wife of a guy on the team. Like, no one really asks, or it's not really. I don't know anybody that has ever made a comment to the media, or honestly even been asked something by the media. So
I was going to ask you
separate.
that. I was going to ask you that. Are there any partners or spouses that are that type of a person, but not that you can think of? Huh?
I'm sure you could find the opportunity if you wanted to, but the opportunity to go speak to a reporter or something isn't really there for you, like in games. The only time it would be is literally something like this, where it's a podcast or something, but even then I haven't really heard anybody say anything.
Yeah, I don't think so. I did get asked once when Greg was traded to Boston. A newspaper from Boston did reach out to myself and another family who was traded there at the deadline as well, and did a piece on both of our stories. They were different in that I was staying in Minnesota, and And this was a family who was from Boston, so they were all packing up and they were moving home at the deadline. So that was nice for them, and it was just the two different perspectives. But other than that, that's the closest I ever came to the media, and I don't know, like I can't recall anybody along the way having ever been asked.
It's just not really a thing.
Or
for us.
interviewed for anything.
Okay.
I do think now, though, that you have to be more careful with, as a wife or a family member, you have to be more careful with what you're putting out there on your socials, because if you put something out there, they're like vultures, like once you air your grievance, somebody's going to pick up on that, and now they're going to want to run with that. And that wasn't a thing that I've seen it from time to time where an unhappy wife makes a comment on her socials, and now all of a sudden that's being blasted and whatever. But yeah, that wasn't our thing back then.
So Jen, earlier you mentioned something about having some friends outside of hockey, and you think that was good for you. So how do you folks maintain a sense of normalcy in family life amidst the hectic hockey schedule? And I know you did allude to some things, especially about the nap, how important that is that the nap does not get interrupted, and you make sure you have the ingredients for the pregame meal there. But how about getting together with friends and doing things with couples? How does that work out with you?
I would say that when we were back in our playing days, our get-togethers were mostly with our hockey family. It was the guys were on the road and the girls did a ladies' night out, or the team was having their Movember party or whatever. That's where most of our relationships were kind of focused, I guess. I was sitting with Christy Nichols, Scott Nichols' wife, in Nashville, our first year in Nashville. By this time, we'd already been in the Nashville system for 3 or 4 years. We played 3 years in Milwaukee, and this was our first year in Nashville. And then she was asking, how it was going and this and that. And she said something to me that kind of stuck with me, and it was something along the lines of, it's hard for her to get too close to anybody, because by that time they had moved several times. And she just kind of was like, she's like, I'm not trying to be, for lack of a better word, a B word. It's just that I don't give myself up too much, because I don't know
is it worth
how long we're going to be here, and it just kind of stuck with me. And I think that's, for some, I think that is a mentality. I think it was Christy Nickel. Now that I said that, I don't know if it was. I might take that back. It was somebody in Nashville, and they said that, it was just, it's hard to make those relationships and get too close to somebody just because of the fact that tomorrow they might be gone, or
and you might never see them again,
and you might never see them again.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So you feel the same way, kind of like that?
I think everybody does, unless I would say there's some rare occasions where you've been on the same team for 10 years and you have a really close 1 or 2 friends that have also been there for a couple of years or whatnot. But if you're someone like Ty's been on 3 teams in 3 years, I mean, you get used to moving, and you find your close friends and your people, and you spend most of your time with them. And then hopefully you stay in touch. Like, I have a couple people from each team that Ty's been on that I still stay in touch with. And you devote most of your time to those people, because you kind of figure out pretty quickly, or at least I do, who you connect well with. But then you just spend a lot of time talking to family too, because no matter where you are, you always have them. Like my twin sister, I call her a lot. But I would say a lot of people, it can depend on how long you've been somewhere.
Yep.
But for a lot of people, if you've bounced around, it's that mentality.
Yep.
When they come in off the road, or even after a game, have they ever voiced disdain for a particular player or team that they've been playing?
No, for Greg, it's more of those rivalries, right? Like, every team has a rival. And for us, I think the biggest one was back in our Nashville days. it was the Red Wings. It was always the Red Wings, like going on the road to play the Red Wings. And then you come back from playing the Red Wings and you're just like annoyed no matter what the outcome was. You could have won that game and come back annoyed, and you could have lost that game and come back annoyed. But I wouldn't say like nothing over the top.
Yeah.
Right.
Same with us. I think in Connecticut, there was a stretch of games where they played Bridgeport like 3 times in a row or 4 times, and Tyler's like, I'm just tired of playing them. Or there's like a long trip to New York that you have to do across the country, and you bounce around to Jersey and whatnot, and it has nothing to do necessarily. I mean, they're a good team, so it's for the Sharks last year. It wasn't that fun to play anybody. So you come home after a long road trip, and you're like, oh, those were hard games. And it's a long road trip with time changes and bouncing around a lot and being away for 2.5 weeks. So nothing like for individual teams of a specific team he didn't like playing, but more situational.
Okay.
I know Ty probably wouldn't want you to answer this, so I'm not going to ask you to answer this question. But when Greg was playing, was there a particular individual that he had a hard time with regularly?
Oh man.
And the reason I don't want Ty to say anything is he's got his whole career ahead of him.
I can't think of anybody
we
anyway,
can't let
so-
that word get out,
I
right?
literally can't think of anybody.
Gosh, I can't. Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't recall like there being anybody that he like didn't like personality wise or like as a player wise.
And it's not like they fought a lot, so he didn't
Yeah,
have someone
I
that he
can't-
would always fight on another team.
I can't really recall. I'm sure there was somebody, but I have no idea.
Okay. All right.
Gary Bettman calls you guys and he says, ladies, if you could change one thing in the NHL, what would that one change be?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Nothing stands out. No complaints that you can think of, with,
Ooh, I have one.
okay.
It would be, I've heard, I don't know that much, but in Europe, I've heard that they have 2 breaks. I think it would be nice to have one other break.
Other than the All-Star
Okay,
break.
the All-Star break and then another one
It could
maybe.
literally be like 4 days, but just a little mini break in there, because I think then, like the Sharks last year, we had like was it like 2 weeks for All-Star break? And it didn't end up being 2 weeks because you have to stay late and go back early.
Yeah.
But then because they ended up having 2 weeks, then everything got crammed in before and after, so they were so heavy with their schedule that I think for them and just recovery, and especially in the NHL, the flights that you go on and all the time zones, I think like a nice little 4 days just to recharge the body would be kind of nice.
Okay.
Well, hopefully Gary listens to this podcast and considers that
You
proposal.
can take more naps in those 4 days.
There you go. Perfect. So how about, we know hockey's a physical game. We know Ty had a injury last year towards the end of the year. How do your husbands respond to those injuries? Could it be a little nagging one? Could be something really serious. The physical and mental aspects of recovering from an injury. How does that work out with you guys?
Greg really has the mental mindset of there's no such thing as injuries. He did not allow himself to be hurt. And I think because of the kind of player he was, he was not an all-star. He was a 5th, 6th D-man, and you're fighting for your job every single game. And if you allow yourself to be injured and somebody comes in and essentially ends up taking your job from you, that's a thought in the back of your mind when you're that guy, when you're not the guy that's guaranteed a position on a team year after year. You have to earn that. You have to fight for it every single game, and you can't take games off to be injured. So for him, the mental mindset was always, whatever it is, I can play through it. He played with broken fingers. He played on a broken ankle. He could break whatever was broken, he played with it. By the time he was done, the only thing that stopped him in his tracks was a blown Achilles. And there's
Not much
nothing you can do about that. But
Yeah.
anything else, it was, tape it up, whatever we can do, so I can keep going.
Well,
Warrior mentality.
Oh, exactly.
Absolutely.
Ty had a significant injury this last year. What was your role in helping him get through that, and how did he handle it?
I think it was actually really nice because then I got to use my little nursing background a little bit of when we were at the ER, like all the doctors would come in and ask him questions, or the pre-op nurse would come in, and he was just getting really stressed because we didn't know he would have to have surgery, and we didn't know fully what was going on, and it was just a long night. But I think having my background in nursing and the job that I had in the OR in Hartford, it was a really stressful trauma job. You handle trauma surgeries and whatnot. So I think my background of nursing kind of just gives me a perspective of whenever something goes wrong, it's like, well, you're not going to die. You're okay. Like, it's fine. Like,
It's a long way from the heart, right?
Yeah, I remember like when he got hurt with his foot, he called me and I was in the family room eating popcorn. He's like, we're going to go to the hospital. I was like, why? Because no one really saw it. And I walked into the locker room and he was like on a stretcher leaving. And I was like, is it your toe? And he's like, it's my foot. And I was like, oh, I'll see you there. Like, you're fine. And it's just because it's like you come from a different perspective of like I used to do surgeries where people would come in off a helicopter and need a craniotomy done,
Right.
or a motor vehicle accident or a shooting or something. So I think I just came with a different perspective of like, as long as it's not like head or neck and your vitals are still like you're okay, like you're gonna make it through it.
She's going to be a tough mom.
So I think that it might hurt or help Ty, but it's just kind of one of those things of like you get to play hockey for your job, so whatever comes with it, we'll get through it and figure it out.
Yeah.
But if those are our problems, like it's going to be okay. Like we'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And Ty, I took on that same mentality of he just gets anxious to get back, so he is very diligent about doing whatever he needs to get back.
Do the husbands have a workout ritual that, especially in the off season, that they've got to be at the gym for 2 hours, 3 hours on particular days, and not to schedule family events around that?
Greg does to this day. Like I said, his last season was 2014-15. This will be 04-05 this year, so almost 10 years since he's played. And to this day, he gets up and he does his same morning workout routine because it's just embedded in him. He can't not do it. If he doesn't work out, he's all day long. He's just grumpier and he's like disgusted with himself because he didn't work out that. He took the day off. And this is 10 years removed from playing hockey.
Wow. How about Ty?
I mean, he works out and lifts with a group and skates, and then he's going to PT. So his schedule changes, but we don't have kids, so we don't really, and everybody else, like all of our family or friends, they have jobs during the day, and that's when he's working out. So for us, it's really just kind of, he has his schedule, and the night before I just ask when he has stuff going on. So then if there's something that we are doing together or whatnot, we just make sure we can. But yeah, his schedule changes pretty frequently just based on fitting all those schedule things together.
Are you required as spouses to be involved with the team's charitable networks at all?
I guess I never really considered it being required. It was always something that was asked of us, and nobody ever denied it, Yeah, I would say that we were pretty involved. More so, I shouldn't say that we were involved so much as we showed up to the events. Like, we weren't putting on anything. It was more like there was a casino night that was being put on, or there was a fashion show that was being put on, or there was something else. The foundation was doing something, and we would go there to support it,
to help
or to help out with it. But it wasn't like we were actively the ones initiating whatever the events were. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Did you have a favorite one that you looked forward to every year?
We did Smash Vegas a couple times in Nashville. That was fun.
Okay.
Give a little detail. Smash Vegas. All I picture is you guys going up to Las Vegas and kicking their butts or something.
They do like a casino night, and then they would do kind of like it was like, I can recall one in particular. It was a theme. I want to say it was like a 60s theme or something, and we all got dressed up and we did our little fashion walk across, like all the players and wives were introduced, and we did our little fashion walk across the stage. And then you would be seated at a table where it was just one player and their spouse or girlfriend, and all either fans or other people that are involved in the foundation, but you're at a table with people that you don't really know, who have no idea who I am, but they know who Greg is, right? And you spend the night just hanging out with people that are there to support a great cause and having some drinks and having some laughs.
Nice.
Yeah. I think same thing of there's opportunities that you can be involved in things, or there's things that are set up and then you're just asked to like play a small part in it of, hey, we need people to bring in bears for the bear toss or simple things like that. I would say the Sharks were pretty good last year of just a lot of the girls on their own or just through the team. They just had different organizations that you could be involved in. Like I got involved in, there's an animal shelter where you could, it was called Dog Day Out, where you got assigned a dog and you could take a dog out on a walk. So get out of the shelter. And that's how we ended up getting our dog. And so there's things like that I liked that one a lot, just to be a part of.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for
And
sure.
I'm sure Bruce is happy to be with you.
Bruce is, he's the best. He's so cute.
You guys have shared a little bit of insight into your husbands and some quasi-embarrassing, your favorite pillow, whatever. But is there something that you can share with us that would embarrass these guys just a little, to give us a little insight on what they do on a game day, on an off day, or in their family life that you get a chuckle out of because none other than they're your husband, and it's something that, you know, if people knew that they did it, they'd go, holy cow, is that funny?
Gosh, Greg doesn't embarrass easily is the problem. I mean, he does not embarrass. I'd have to think about, that's a tough one. He definitely embarrasses me a lot. He's the guy who will be in the grocery store and all of a sudden he's like ape walking through the grocery store and he's like, like he's making ape noises going up and down the aisle of the grocery store. And I'm absolutely mortified.
I'm not with that guy over there.
Greg has zero problems with that. He's all on full ape mode and he's knocking things off shelves and he's very loud. And he's fine with that, where I'm like, who does that? That's Greg, though. He doesn't embarrass.
Okay, that's kind of a little inside story.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Carolyn, do you have anything to that?
I don't really have anything like that. I would say it's more so like you don't really see the guys outside of the rink, but Ty is, I mean, you see him playing hockey and you, like I just said, you don't know what they're like at home, and he is just so sweet, so tender. So it's just little things like when he gets home from like a long trip, all he wants to do is like put on his little hokas, grab a poppy, and go for like a little walk. So it's just little things like that, of things like he likes to make sourdough.
Oh, little quirkies.
Yeah. So he's like a little pioneer woman. So, he likes to do things like that I think if you looked at him, you probably wouldn't know.
Right.
Great.
Pioneer woman. Wow. I bet he never saw that coming today.
No, I call him that sometimes. But he made a really nice loaf last night.
Oh, this is a great. Okay, for our audience, Ty's sitting in the background here. You can't see him, but he's shaking his head at his wife, smiling. So anyway, during your tenure as a hockey wife, and you currently as a hockey wife, are there any places that you've been able to visit as a result of being an NHL wife that you've enjoyed?
I don't know that I would have ever gone to San Antonio, Texas. I've heard great things about San Antonio, but I probably would have never have made my way there if hockey hadn't have brought us there. And I loved it there. We did things there that we hadn't done anywhere else. We went to a safari. They have the Riverwalk. We did
The Alamo.
the Alamo. Like, there was just things there, and I think that was one of the places that we actually went out and experienced, maybe because we knew that the ride was coming to an end for us, and we made more of an effort to be present in that moment and experience what San Antonio had to offer. That would be my number one. My number two would be, this is a toss-up. Back in the day, Nashville was so different than what it is now. Nashville, we took the kids to Nashville a couple years ago, and I couldn't believe what I was walking into. It was not the wholesome, history-rich, quiet place that it was when we were playing there. If I could go back to Nashville then, I probably would live in Nashville today. But the Nashville of today is not my jam. I wish our kids could experience the Nashville that I once knew.
Okay, all right. Carolyn?
I think mine is for sure Connecticut. We loved the suburbs of Connecticut. When we lived in Glastonbury, it was so fun because all the houses are so old, and you spend the fall there, and it's so New Englandy. There's town Wethersfield that was right by us, where they had like the first recorded Salem witch trials. So there's just so much history behind all the towns there, and there's so many pretty like wineries or just fun little things, or getting a really good lobster roll that you can't do here. So it was a place, kind of like you said, for San Antonio, that I would have never thought to live in, but turned out to be really pretty and really fun. So yeah, we really liked it there.
Nice.
Awesome. Ladies, this has been an absolute inspirational blast. Oh my gosh.
I can't tell you how many times, we think about this stuff, right? And what about the wife's perspective? And I'm so glad we did this, because I didn't know these answers. I mean, it was really interesting to hear your insights on what you've been through, and you came out the other end and everything's good, and you're kind of just getting into it. So hopefully,
can I give
you
one
learned
bit
some
of
stuff.
advice?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
as you move forward through this journey, it comes to an end.
Yeah.
And I look back now, and it's like it never happened. So when you're in this moment right now, and all of the crazy and all of the uncertainty, try to really embrace it. I didn't do a good job embracing it. It was not the lifestyle that I had ever seen myself living, and it was overwhelming. And looking back now, I wish that I would have, given more of myself to it, because it's such a unique experience. And then one day it's just over, and now it's like it just never even happened. So enjoy all the crazy, because it will come to an end one day, and then you're going to look back and like, gosh, that was a cool thing we got to do that
It is cool.
not a lot of people get to do.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, thank you, and thank you both for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories.
Thanks for having us. It was fun.
Yeah, this was fun.
yeah, I enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to leave a comment on your favorite social media platform. Helps Mogi and I stay in the game.
And again, a big thanks to our special guests, Jen Zanin and Carolyn Emberson, as well as you folks, our faithful listeners. Please remember to visit our sponsors, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Clinic, Hertel Law, Ryan Flagg at State Farm Insurance, Dooley's Pub, Williams Diamond Center, and Eau Claire Ford. And remember, folks, until next time, keep your head on a swivel and stay on your inside edges.